Hey guys, happy Tuesday. Good morning and welcome to this week's edition of our NetReady Facebook Live events. So pleased to have you here. Thank you very much for your time dedicating to us, people of NetReady. Thank you so much. Today we've got an awesome lineup for you. So this topic is going to just blow your mind. We've sat and discussed a couple of the key components of this. We're going to be highlighting the top 10 reasons why MLM businesses fail. Richard, hey.
How are you doing, Stu?
Very good, thanks.
How are you going? A sip of my coffee quickly.
Yeah. Listen, you're looking great.
Thank you. Well,
I must say.
You've been a good influence
on
me.
I was going to say, someone's had a good influence on you, and you're looking good.
So just before we carry on, I want to mention that we've got this Go Orders sign behind us.
Yes.
And the reason being is that they're actually in studio at the moment with us doing their videos for their launch.
Yeah.
So that's why this is up here.
Yeah.
And I think they've done a nice job of their sign.
It's beautiful. Yeah, it's really cool. So we do a lot of Facebook stories, and we've posted a couple of the behind the scenes footage of the ladies coming in doing the video shoots.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So it's this studio, Richard, has been amazing. We are able to facilitate all video content for our clients and anyone wanting to shoot their company's video footage.
Good plug.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Did you see how I did that?
I saw how you did that.
And what you're adding in here is you can't see behind the scenes here, but we've got teleprompters, big lights. I mean, every time I come in here, there's just more lighting, there's more equipment, and I feel like a celebrity sitting in here interviewing you every week. That's really cool. Yeah, I love presents. Is that love language? I think.
Yeah. Gifts.
Exactly.
Gifts, one of the love languages.
Exactly. Okay, what are we chatting about today? The 10 reasons why multi-level marketing businesses fail.
Yes.
Okay. Now, we've had a lot of clients that have come on board with us that have started getting into this exponential growth period. They've started ramping up their businesses, but for one of these reasons, or a couple of them, they fail. And we try to guide them as much as possible, but to understand these reasons, to make sure that we don't have these issues when scaling these businesses. I mean, those are things to watch out for. So in this session, I want to just go through those reasons, highlight them, so that our clients can be just very conscious of, or anyone listening can be conscious of the things that maybe steer away from.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah.
The first one I want to talk about is the product and having the right product. We've done a whole talk on the product before, but how imperative is it to have the right product?
Well, absolutely. I mean, you've got to have a compelling product. If you don't have a compelling product, then you can ramp your business up, but eventually people will see through the product and they'll just stop doing it. Because the fundamental thing is, most people, the vast majority of people, are not con artists.
Right.
So in order for them to sell your product, they have to believe in it heart and soul. So if you don't have a compelling product, a credible product, something that they can believe in, you might get them for a season until they see through your product and then they're gone. So one of the biggest things for me, and one of the areas that we see the most companies fail on, is that they'll get out of the ground and then people will see through the product and then they just disappear, they leave.
Yeah.
Because they won't recommend a product to their friends they don't believe in. There are some people who do that, but they're the kind of people that while you're not watching will steal your watch off your bedside table when they come to visit you. So you don't want those kind of people in your business anyway. So that's a critical point of it. Yeah.
In terms of the pricing of the product, there's a couple companies that there's a factor calculation to that of a cost price and what we retail it for. Now, there has to be substantial value for money when you're setting that margin. So I know the guys at the Amways or the Avons of the world, they're looking at a times 8, times 9, times 10 factor. However, we don't want to price ourselves out the market when people then identify, well, this is actually too expensive for what I'm getting. So the value for money conversation comes in.
Yeah, look, and again, the issue is not what you price the product at. The issue is how much value can you build in that product. And you build value by knowing what the product's all about. And that comes to training, which we'll be talking about in a little while. But the issue is if I know what makes this product great, and I can communicate that effectively to you, I can build value. And if I can build value, then you will actually buy the product because you believe in it. If you can't build value, and that talks to the fact that I don't know what the product, I'm not sold myself. If I'm not sold myself because I don't understand what's in the product, then how on earth am I going to put that across to you? And then I can't build value, in which case you're not going to want to buy the product at whatever price. And so the price that you plug is not as important as being able to build the value in the price. So I think I told a story in one of our previous podcasts or vlogs or whatever we call these things.
Yeah.
But one of the previous episodes, we talked about the fact that Amway buys all the farms around the farm that produces the raws, and then uses spiders instead of pesticides and doesn't allow herbicides.
Yes, of course.
And so they build the value through their story. And the same thing with your product. Whatever product you're selling, you've got to be able to build the value. Why is this thing awesome, and why is it worth the money we're asking? And that's a key component. If you can't do that, obviously the product is never going to sell. You won't retain your people. So yeah.
Okay.
Critical.
So the first issue,
Point one.
number
Yay.
one, that the mistake people make, come on, is that they have the product.
Yeah.
However, it is not compelling. It will attract someone because of the network marketing, the power of the network, being able to sell it, but people are not con artists, and soon they will leave.
Exactly.
Also needs to be good value for money, and that it needs to be
offer.
a fair exchange.
Exactly.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and what you were just saying there is that
Yes.
people will join because of the power of the network.
Yes.
That's why these scams get traction, is because people join because of the power of the network. But they leave because there's no product. And so the whole issue is that you can get your business up and running, you can get to $2-3 million turnover, but then if you don't have a credible product, what will happen is it'll just collapse and dissolve into nothing. And it happens faster.
Yeah.
Once this thing starts to collapse because there's not a credible product, what happens is the network disappears overnight. You can have it within days. The whole network can be gone.
Yeah, yeah. One of the components I actually want to bring in here, we're going to talk about later, is that of cash flow. But it relates to the product and having the cash flow in which to create the product to service the demand. And one of our clients, or a couple of our clients, have actually made that mistake of not having the cash flow to be able to produce the product in which to fulfill the market's needs.
Exactly.
So let's go into that a little bit. The second one is, don't buy fancy cars. Okay, so I've got to. I know this is a sore time.
My favorite.
And this was the highlight for or the description for the session is
Don't be a turkey.
Don't be a turkey. Don't go out and buy fancy cars. But when do we start buying fancy cars? And do we start buying fancy cars?
Well, I think the problem is that you get lulled into a false sense of security. Okay, and if you haven't run a business before, and we've helped a lot of small guys who've never run big businesses before get into the space. And as you know, our launch strategy is very powerful. So we take them from 0 to 10,000 agents. They're suddenly doing $1 million a month, $2 million a month, and they do that in 5 or 6 months. And suddenly they look at their bank account and they see this huge money coming through.
Yeah.
And so they think to themselves, time to shop for a Ferrari or a Porsche or whatever. And so we've had this situation. So we had one of our clients. We got them up within, say, 5-6 months. They were sitting 7 months. They were sitting at 20 million rand, which is what that's about.
Which is about
$1.8 million.
Yeah, 1.8. Yeah.
$1.8 million.
Let's call it.
So they get up to $1.8 million turnover. Okay, I go up to see them in Joburg, and the one guy arrives at the meeting in a Porsche, and the other guy picks me up in a Ferrari. Not only that, but the two partners have bought themselves fancy houses in a very, very rich area. So the problem with that is they've pulled the cash flow out of their business, and they've put this cash into cars and houses. Now, the next problem that happened is the following month, they went from $1.8 million to...
The 3 million.
No, it was more. $3 million.
Yeah.
So they went from $1.8 million to $3 million in turnover.
In 1 month.
In 1 month. But now they didn't have the cash to purchase. Instead of taking the money that they had and putting it all into stock, they didn't. They put it into cars and houses.
Right.
Now suddenly the business peaked was still going through a very powerful vertical growth, and they didn't have the cash flow to fund the stock. They ran out of stock. Their suppliers couldn't cope with that kind of demand in that short time space. That was the end of the business. They tanked their whole business. They went from a $3 million turnover to something in the region of $100,000 turnover literally in 2 months. The business just did a free fall, and they lost their whole company. So the question that I ask people is, listen, what do you want more? Do you want a successful business or a Ferrari? You know? And it seems insane.
Yeah.
Because they were on a very steep trajectory. So the question is, when do you go out and buy a Ferrari?
Well, yes.
That's the question. My answer would be never.
You want an Aston Martin or a DB9?
No. So, yeah. So my answer would be never buy a fancy car.
Right.
And because that doesn't help your business growing. If you have a look at the top companies, they've been going for 50, 60, 70 years. And they become multinationals. And so my advice to anybody out there is keep your cash in the business. Live frugally. Focus 100% on growing your business. Focus on bringing compelling new products into the business. Focus on opening new regions. I mean, you think you can open a new region and it's simple. It's not simple, because there's rules that you don't know about. There's compliance that you have to do. Your products have maybe got to be registered. You've got to open businesses in those areas. You've got to find business partners who can help you trade in there. You've got to do implementation with payment gateways. There's a whole slew of things that need cash. You need to get product into the country. You need to have lead times. So you need to understand what your lead times are and how much cash you need in those countries, and how much product you need in the country, and how much cash you need to keep your product increasing to cope with the growth.
Right.
So all of that stuff needs cash. And if your money's tied up in a car, for heaven's sakes, why? So my first thing would be, don't. But obviously there comes a time when your business is stable. So your business goes through an S-curve. People think that exponential growth is vertical forever. It's not, obviously. Mathematically, you just run out of people in the world.
Yeah.
So what the businesses all do is they have this S-curve. They start off in a linear fashion, then they hit this exponential curve where you think, wow, I've won the lottery. And I mean, it's literally, you cannot believe it. It's like winning the lottery. This business just goes vertical and the money's just flowing in like you can't believe. But at some point, it tops out. You get into a linear phase again, where the business is growing stably, and where you can basically almost to the cent predict what next month's turnover is going to be. Now, if you've been running your business for a year and it's completely stable and you can predict what next month's turnover is going to be, and you're not looking to open up any other areas, and you then at that point want to buy yourself a nice car, well, fair enough. But I would just say to you, look at what your business could do. If you've done this in one country, you know, the current client I'm talking about did it in South Africa. Yeah. I mean, South Africa is a tiny pinprick of a country in global terms. And they were able to get up to $3 million turnover here in 1 month. Can you imagine if they'd just taken that same product range, even if they just spread it through Africa?
Wow. Yeah.
The opportunities would have been amazing. But they don't have a business now. I'm not even sure that they still have their cars, because, you know, when they got under financial pressure like that, you know, everything washes out from under you. Yeah. So don't be a turkey. Yeah.
Don't be a turkey. Exactly. When we hit the top of that S-curve, we then are in a position to have options. Okay. So I'm going to lead into this now. Is that we can either, because some people are materialistic, and that's absolutely fine. We can decide, yes, we want to have our cars, we want to have a DB9. I keep coming back to DB9. I don't know why.
I got a feling that's what you kind of want. It's a very nice car, I must say.
Or we can then move into new regions, new markets. And then we start that S-curve again.
Yeah.
But the key mistake that we're making is that when we win the lottery, we hit that exponential growth period, we invest in things like cars instead of into the business. And that's a key mistake we make.
And while you're growing, that's when you need the cash. More than any other time in your business, funding the growth is the most difficult thing to do. And understand, the investors out there, they don't understand multi-level marketing. They don't understand these exponential growth curves. They don't believe them. They don't trust them. So getting somebody to invest big money to fund your growth, especially if you've gone out and bought a fancy car, very, very difficult.
Yeah.
Very difficult. So you need, while you're growing like that, that's when you need to keep every penny in your bank account. You know.
Typically, how long does it take to get to that stable period within the multi-level marketing business? Is there a general timeline?
About 3 to 5 years.
Okay. Yeah, wow.
If you're doing everything right, about 3 to 5 years.
Yeah. Okay.
So I would say if you've been running your business for 5 years, you've got stability, then hell, go and buy yourself a Porsche.
Right.
Or a DB9 or whatever it is that
Yeah.
floats your boat.
Yeah. Okay.
But I wouldn't do it before then, you know. And it is so tempting because you look in the bank and there's, I mean, one of our clients, excuse me for having a moment of frustration. I chatted to them about putting up racking
Yes.
in their warehouse
Yes.
to cope with the volumes that they were having to pick and pack. Went to the places to find the racking, found all of the correct racking, went back up to their office about 2 months later to see what they'd done. They've got some guy to weld up some really ridiculous stuff which was not deep enough, which was useless. I asked them why they needed to do that. It was to save money. And that same month they went out and bought a Porsche.
Oh dear. Oh dear.
And their business has actually gone from $2-3 million down to about $200,000 over a period of about 8 months. And I'm 100% sure it's because instead of focusing on making sure that their product was perfect and their implementation of fulfillment was perfect, they were focused on shopping for cars and diversifying.
I mean, understanding your experience in a previous life with traditional business, you know, running a big logistics company
Yes.
in South Africa, I mean, you're guiding them on the right principles in which to manage the warehouse. Come on, guys. Why would you take advice from the experts, the professionals in the space?
Well, the bottom line is that they don't, and they are where they are. I mean, it's just, it is the way it is.
Sure.
And certainly that's one of the reasons I wanted to do this today, is to try and hammer home not only to our existing clients, but to people who are getting into the space, the importance of actually remaining focused on your business and not chasing after shiny, bright objects, because it destroy your business, for sure.
Okay. Let's get into the third one, which is diversifying on products. Diversifying when we're going to get into this, then there's no synergies, when it's not the right time. There's strategy and intent behind introducing new products, and diversifying at the wrong time or with the wrong products is a big no-no.
Well, yeah, look, the challenge comes in as soon as you start hitting success. What happens is you build a big network of people. And then people who do not have your best interests at heart, have their own best interests at heart, will approach you with their fancy products. And they'll want you to push their products down your network. Now, the problem is if you don't have synergy with those products, you just destroy your business because you take everybody's focus off the business. I'll give you a prime example. We were running and this is my personal story, we were running the satellite in the Western Cape for Rainbow vacuum cleaners. So we had this big team of people. We were selling a shed load of Rainbow vacuum cleaners. And we got approached by a guy who had water purification. And he came to us and showed us this incredible water purifiers and how incredibly effective they were. We got approached by another client, another guy from our team, who had this incredible education program. And so at the time, we were like noobs to this whole thing. So we thought, wow, we've got this army of people who are selling Rainbow vacuum cleaners. Why don't we put this water purifier down and let these guys sell the water purifier as well? Oh, and cool, let's get them involved in selling this education product. Well, the problem is that some people like the water purifier and try to sell it, and some people like the education program and try to sell it. What we landed up with is almost no sales in vacuum cleaners, almost no sales in water purifiers, and almost no sales in education products. So we had this amazing business, this absolutely pumping, And we managed to rip the carpet out from under it because we took everybody's eye off the ball. When we were doing just vacuum cleaners, they'd come into the office every single week, and every week I do a full demonstration for them personally of how to sell the vacuum cleaner. Every week I was focusing them on how many appointments they needed to do and what they needed to do. And okay, it was a direct selling business really rather than an MLM business. But the second I introduced non-synergistic products to the network, it destroyed us. Now, was the water purifier guy, did he care about my business? No. What did he care about? Pushing his product. Same with the education guy. He didn't care about our business. He cared about pushing his product. And I, of course, thought that new shiny product, hell, what harm can it do? Didn't realize. Now, that happens to all of our clients. They've got this big network, and there's a lot of people who are desperate to sell their product, who will try and leverage your relationship with your people. And that is a massive mistake. Every product that you take on board needs to be taken on with intent and needs to be synergistic with what you're doing and needs to add to your basket, not detract from it.
Right.
A person, for example, it's no good putting, if you're selling cosmetics and you've got an amazing exfoliator, then adding a face mask or an eye cream into the mix is brilliant.
Because it's synergies.
But adding coffee into it so that you can sit and relax while you're using your face mask, there's no synergy there.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
It might help the guy selling coffee, but it doesn't help your business. You need to keep your people focused, keep their eye on the prize all the time. Anyway, so what products you introduce can have a really huge negative effect. It can absolutely scuttle your boat.
Is there strategy behind when we should introduce new products into the network?
Yeah, well, we did that whole session on that, and yes, you never dribble them in. You always launch them at specific events, and you make a big deal of it, and you open the sales for that product on that night, and it's like a huge thing.
Yeah.
And you show them how it ties in with your entire ethos of the business, etc.
Right. Okay. So there is strategy to this. There's a build-up to it, and there's a launch or an event, a big event that says, this is a new product. It has synergies with the other product range for these reasons. These are the benefits, and then there's a big education drive on what that product is going to be. Okay. Brilliant. Okay, so now what we've discussed here is point number one, just rehashing here, is having the right product that is valuable and compelling. We want to don't buy fancy cars.
Don't be a turkey.
Don't be a turkey. And then we want to don't diversify prematurely or with products that don't have synergies with the business.
Now, look, another thing that don't diversify, and that is the guy suddenly got a lot of money, and there's a lot of people around there wanting to get their hand on the money.
Right.
So they'll be offering you opportunities in spaces that are not your business, and you can take that cash and put it into this opportunity or that opportunity. And maybe those opportunities are great, but you need your cash in your business.
Yep.
We had another client, prime example. His brother had this cool idea to start this business. And of course, he was doing really well within his MLM space, and he had all of this cash. So he took his cash, lent it to his brother to start this business, which failed.
Yeah.
And then, of course, took all of the cash out of his business, which caused his business to fail. So you've got to be super careful. There's going to be a lot of people who are going to be vying for your attention once this thing starts to succeed. And it's one of the key reasons why businesses fail. And it's all about taking the cash flow out of the business, diversifying unnecessarily or prematurely.
There's this underlying theme that's coming out here, is that it's taking your eye off the ball, looking at shiny things when you should be focused on what you're doing right.
For 3 to 5 years, at least. At least.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go into number 4. That's changing the compensation plan. Okay. We've had clients that have done this, that we've advised against it, and we've heard these horror stories internationally that have happened. I mean, this is a big no-no, right?
Yeah, the first thing is that they've gone and picked somebody else's comp plan, or they've tried to create one themselves. So now they've got a compensation plan that is not effective. And so they're sitting there freaking out because they've got this compensation plan that isn't doing what it's supposed to be doing. So step number 1, you've actually got to do the necessary hard yards to get a compensation plan that works for you. Step number 2, whatever compensation plan you chose, when you chose it, you believed in it.
Yeah.
Now you've got to believe in it. And changing it is an absolute disaster, because when you change it, what's going to happen is some people are going to earn less money. And those people who you're taking money away from, are they going to be more excited or less excited about your business?
Way less excited.
What happens is they leave.
Yeah.
And so you lose a slew of people because you change the comp plan. Now, there are companies who've changed comp plans successfully. It's always a painful experience, and I highly recommend that you don't do it.
Yeah.
But, and another thing I just want to point out while we're on the compensation plan is there's no perfect compensation plan in the world. Nothing. There's not a single perfect compensation plan. I've been doing a series on compensation plans, and I've been researching each of them to see what other people are saying about them. And every time I research a compensation plan, the opening words are, this is the most powerful, this is the best, this is the most, this is the one that grows your business the fastest. Every single one of them has that as the opening lines. But there's no perfect comp plan. The comp plan is the story you tell people about how they can earn a good living out of your business. That's what the compensation plan is. And they need to be able to do that. So this is the set of rules. This is what you need to do, and this is how you leverage those rules to maximize your income. You've got to believe in it. They've got to believe in it. And as soon as you start listening to people saying, oh, that's a better plan, or this one works better, and that's what happens, because Peter Pompey's, whoever he is, joins your business. He's been a member of some other company, and then he's sitting and whispering in everybody's ears about that compensation plan. Well, if that compensation plan was so damn good, why didn't you stay with that company? Go away.
Yes.
You know? So you've got to believe, you've got to be absolutely locked into your compensation plan. You've got to believe it in heart and soul and not change it. And just keep on going. And that obviously is a key reason why companies fail. They change their comp plan. The network doesn't like it.
Right.
You've spent all of this time convincing them that the comp plan you've got is excellent. It's the best comp plan in the world. It's amazing. Now you change it. What is the message you're sending?
Yeah.
That in actual fact it's not the best comp plan in the world. Hey, we got it all wrong. Sorry.
Yeah. But that's poor leadership. And not having the 100, we actually did an episode on this last week, is not having 100% confidence in your business, the product, and the compensation plan. And if you start listening to the network, them giving you feedback and guidance, that's not the way, that's not the message you want to be sending out to your network.
Yeah.
Okay, so don't change the compensation plan.
Exactly.
Okay? It can work, but we advise completely against doing it.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's get into the fifth point, which is not having the correct training in place.
Yeah. Yeah, look, that's a big one.
Yeah.
You've got an opportunity. I come along to you and I say, here, take $100, give me a starter pack, and teach me everything I need to know about the product, the compensation plan, and how to do this. Now, we expect our people, for some reason, I don't know why, to have initiative and to just go out and do this thing. Well, if they had initiative and they were just going to do it, they would be running their own MLM company. But you need to realize that the average person gets put into kindergarten at the age of 3. For the next X number of years, they get told to sit down, shut up, face the front, do what I tell you. Then they go to primary school or preschool. Sit down, shut up, face the front, tell you what I want to do. If you don't do that, we put you on Ritalin so that you shut up, face the front, sit down, do what we tell you. Then they go through primary school, same story. Then they get to high school. Now, at the end of high school, what they do is they take a fairly broad approach to knowledge, and they specialize at university. And what they do there is they narrow it down to a pinpoint where they focused on one narrow speciality. And it's again, this is how it works, do what we tell you, and you'll pass. And so you spend the next 5 years regurgitating what you've put in exams to prove that you've listened to what they said, and you get out at the end of a 12 or 15 or 20-year period having had all the initiative you can ever imagine completely beaten out of you. At some point you join an MLM company and the owners expect you to have initiative. And how ridiculous is that?
Yeah, completely.
So as an owner of a company, you've got to realize that if you want your people to be successful, they are not lazy. They're not lazy. They want to do the work. They want to get out there and make things happen. They just don't know how to do it, and they don't know how to work it out for themselves. So as an owner of a company, your job is to provide them with the training to understand exactly what they need to do, how they need to do it, when they need to do it, and then give them the confidence to do it. Those are the things that you've got to do. And if you don't train your people properly, your business will fail, for sure. And that's one of the key reasons. That's why it's one of the 10.
Right.
One of the key reasons why businesses fail is because the company doesn't provide the right kind of training to ensure success with their network. Their network comes, they flounder around, they don't know what to do, they get like scared and freaked out, and then they just leave.
Yeah.
And then they point fingers and say, this business is useless.
Yeah.
Well, I have to say, I agree with them, because if the business had trained them properly, they would have done the work, because as I say, they're not lazy. It's not a laziness thing.
Right.
It's a capability thing.
Yeah.
It's an understanding thing. It's a knowing what to do thing.
What are the general stat, the average earnings of a network member in an MLM business globally? I think it was $1,200.
No, that's their sales, $1,200.
Okay.
So let's say they're just getting a retail commission out of that. So the average earning per member per month is probably in the $200 mark, $150 to $200 mark.
Okay. Won't that stat, that landscape, look a whole lot different if your training is in place? You teach your people exactly how they need to sell it, how they need to be training their recruits. That landscape, that stat, that global stat would look completely different if we had the right training in place.
Yes, and also your churn. Your churn would look different.
Your churn would look, of course. Your retention.
I was up in Joburg talking to a company. Their churn, they've only got a 50% churn. Now, the average in the industry is 80%. They've only got a 50% churn.
Yeah.
So I asked them, why do they think they only have a 50% churn? And they put it down primarily to the training they were doing. They said that every single new product, they put training videos together. They teach the people how to sell it, what's good about it. They teach their people aggressively how to make appointments, how to show people the products. And their whole training behind their business is what ensures that their churn is low and that their people are making money.
Wow. Okay. I mean, that is a prime example of the leadership you should be following. Now, how do we do that training? So is it e-learning platforms? Is it groups sitting in sessions together? How does that actually happen?
Well, normally what you would do is you would teach your leadership how to teach. So your first thing, your most important way of doing this is to get your leadership teaching their people.
Right.
So when I recruit you, I should teach you. And I should show you how to do it in a number of ways. My opinion would be there would be a video. You and I would watch the video together. Then you and I would go through a Q&A session where you would interrogate me and ask questions. Then we would role play selling the product or presenting the compensation plan. And then I would go out with you. I would watch you do it. Sorry, you would watch me do it. And I would show you how it's done. Then we would do it together. And then I would watch you do it and give you feedback.
Right.
Okay?
Nice.
And we do everything, whether it's making an appointment or trying to recruit somebody or selling the product. Now, if I do that with you consistently, then what happens is you'll end up understanding how to do it thoroughly. Chances are you're making money because you're doing it properly, and the chances are you'll be successful. Obviously,
in the business.
not guaranteed, but the chances are. If I just give you the starter kit and say, go out and make it happen, or watch these 3 videos and get it done, chances are you're going to fail. So that training is very important. I still think the company's messaging should be through videos, because that's a way of you keeping the messaging consistent.
Right.
But there needs to be a person-on-person, belly-to-belly type training involved. And that also comes from training. You need to train your people how to do it. One of the ways that we kind of do it at NetReady is we have a pledge. And so when I sign you up, we make a pledge to each other. And that highlights what is expected. I promise to teach you how the system works, how to sell the product, how to help you recruit people, how to understand the compensation plan, and how to train, whatever those pledges are. You promise to learn how the system works. You promise to help me make the first 5 appointments. You promise to help me find people that we can recruit on your front. You promise to learn how all the values of the products, etc., and the demonstration. And you promise to train your people. And so whatever. I mean, I don't know what the exact
Yes.
pledge should be,
Yeah.
but we make this promise to each other, and I get them, the guys with our clients, we get them to sign on the dotted line. Hey, we promise to do this, so that we both know when we get into this thing that you're expected to do some work and I'm expected to help you.
Yeah.
And then what we do is an accountability thing. At the end of 6 weeks, the system will send you a link to say, hey, listen, click on this link and tell us how
Review
Richard did.
or rate.
Rate it,
Yeah.
rate us. So it
Yeah.
creates accountability. And so that is a key part to, and it's one of the reasons companies fail is they just don't put enough emphasis on training.
Yeah. You're setting and managing the expectations between the two. The other thing we'd like to relate it to is traditional business. And would you bring on an employee and say, well, get on with it? Of course you would not.
No. So if you're paying them a salary, you tend to make sure that they're successful.
Of course.
And you've got to treat your network the same way.
And maybe that the idealism in the MLM space or the network is that, well, I'm not paying a salary to this person. They're earning purely based on commissions. Therefore, I don't need to put in the effort to train these people the way they should be trained. And that is a big reason why businesses fail.
Exactly.
Not
In
enough
this
training.
MLM space. Yeah.
Okay.
100%.
Okay. Awesome. The sixth one that we want to get into is not actually having the support of the leaders, not being there in support for the needs and requirements of the network. So let's just get into support a little bit further. And then we also want to talk about the loyalty, which plays nicely into loyalty.
Well, as a company, you shouldn't be dealing with the rank and file. You don't have the time. You've got 30 or 40,000 people in your
not.
network. You don't have the time.
Yeah.
But if you haven't instilled a strong loyalty and work ethic within your leadership, then you can forget about it. Because what you should be doing is you should be continuing to build your leadership all the time. You should be having leadership conferences. You should be having leadership training. You should be getting top people to speak to your leaders. You should be continually pouring into the leadership, because that is the goose that lays the golden egg there, right there. And the key thing here is you should make sure that your leadership is loyal to the company. And that's a difficult one, because what happens is that once you become top of a network, you've got the same problem as the company. You're getting these opportunities offered to you. There's diversification happening everywhere.
Yeah.
Somebody sees that you've got this massive network. Now, are they interested in you and your network, or are they interested in themselves and getting you into their new shiny business?
Yeah.
So what happens is the leadership is approached by all of these other companies, because they see, oh, this person is epic. They're doing all of this kind of stuff. So what they do is then they pull this leadership away. And if you haven't instilled real loyalty in your company, this person is up and running with someone else. And suddenly they're talking to the whole network about this new opportunity. And that takes everybody's eye off the ball, and they're gone.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're talking about this now.
Yeah, we are. Yeah.
Okay. And that brings me to the next thing, is that sometimes you have to lance the boil. And I say this to people, look, let's say you're married, okay? And your partner, whoever that is,
Yeah.
decides that they want to start philandering around. They want to have extramarital affairs. Now, you might accept that once, they apologize, sorry, we didn't mean to do that.
Right, yeah.
But if that continues to happen, what are you going to do? I mean, you're not going to
Yeah.
put up with that. Now, that lands up in, okay, it's time for us to separate. You want to do that? That's great, but go away. Now, it's more important, I don't want to be funny, but it's more important in your network. Because if you've got one person taking everybody's eye off your ball and putting it onto this company or that company or the next company, if you've got one person like that, they can poison your whole business and literally collapse your network. Now, we've had recently a client like that.
Yeah.
This leader, she was doing incredibly with our client, and she's now suddenly, really well. She's earning a good salary, went out and got herself a nice house, consistently earning great money.
Yeah.
Then she was approached by the companies. She watched a whole lot of videos on these other companies. Said, well, that's a good idea. Off she went, and she took all of her people and she tried to introduce them to these other companies.
Yeah.
She's had to get rid of her house. Her car was repossessed. She's earning 1/10 of the money she has On top of it, she's not making any money with any of these other companies she's run with. And the company she's with, half their turnover is gone. Now, when this first happened, I said to the client, listen, you need to get rid of her immediately. Delete her from the system. She's busy recruiting your people into some other company. That's in your terms and conditions. You can't do.
Yeah.
Set an example. Delete her from the system right now. Move her people to another leader. Get rid of her. They were scared to get rid of her, obviously. She's responsible for half their turnover. If they pull her out of there, what's going to happen? Well, they didn't pull her out of there.
Yeah.
This person's poisoned the whole well. Instead
Yeah.
of being able to rescue her team and put them under new leadership and set an example to everybody, they left her in there. Now what's happened is they've still got her in there. She's still poisoning the well, and they've lost half of their turnover anyway.
Yeah.
So sometimes you need to work with your leaders, but one of the key things is being too scared to let somebody who's
Yeah.
poisoning the business go.
Yeah.
And sometimes you just got to make the hard call. You're going to say, listen, that's it. Those are our terms and conditions. You're violating them. You're gone.
Yeah.
Now, you've got to be careful. Don't do that. Don't do that prematurely,
Right.
or without sitting down with the person and explaining to them, listen, you can't have two. You can't serve two masters.
Yeah.
You've got to be loyal to the business. If you can't be loyal to the business, then you need to leave completely. But don't do what you're doing. So you need to have an intervention with them and try and explain to them that this is like being married, and you can't just have another partner.
Yeah.
You know, you're gonna destroy the marriage if you carry on doing this.
Yeah. What is that line that you have? Having one wife is...
Well, behind every successful man, there's a powerful woman.
Yes.
And behind every failure, there's two powerful women.
And I love the way that those stories relate into network marketing, because if your leader is sitting with their one business and their one focus, then you're a success and you're powerful.
Yeah.
However, if you then sit in another company, you're taking your eye off the ball. And it's coming back to the shiny object again, is that if you've got two, you're doomed to fail.
Yeah. You just, and I mean, I've experienced it in my own life, obviously,
Yeah.
not through multiple partners. I mean, in business.
Yes, okay.
And we've seen it happen with our clients, and it's one of the causes for companies to collapse is that their main leadership goes off and starts joining other companies, and you've got to really have that in your terms and conditions. And if you see it happening, you've got to act fast.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Next point. Let's go.
All right. We actually went into another point that we had, which
really?
was don't be scared to ditch people in the network if they're not performing. The
sorry.
jokers, perfectly fine. But let's quickly touch on support, which was one of the reasons why businesses fail. Are we providing enough support to the network when they have queries? If customers got queries, let's focus on that of a CRM system. And offering that insight into the business, assistance, and offering gateways into receiving training, the collateral, and to help their business. If we're not supporting the network, that's a big issue.
Yes. Well, that goes back to the fact that your people don't have the initiative. Some people have initiative. I'm not saying they have no initiative, but in your business, nobody understands it like you.
Yeah.
And so, yes, you need to be providing that support and that help and that assistance to your network. Not thinking of them as being useless, but thinking of them as needing that assistance and whatever they need.
Yeah.
If it's brochures, if it's posters, if it's leaflets, if it's website mechanisms, if it's landing pages, whatever it is they need, but also having a clear line of access, like your IBOs need to talk to their team leaders, and the team leaders need to talk to their diamonds, and the diamonds need to talk to the company. And everybody needs to understand what that line of sponsorship is and who's helping who, but the company absolutely providing support so that a diamond needs to talk to you. They need to be able to pick up the phone, talk to you, tell them what their problem is, and have you step in and help them with whatever that is.
Sure. I always think a proactive approach to support is the best way to go. I mean, just looking at my team, my support team for the clients, I say, guys, we actually need to think what the client is going to be thinking in the next week, month's time.
Yes.
Okay? And go, let's preempt this, let's offer the support ahead of time, and that is just a beautiful synergy and relationship between clients and our support staff.
One of the things we're doing, and this is something that I recommend all companies do, is we are incentivizing our support teams. So what we're doing is we're running competitions that as the support teams get recognized with 5 stars, they
Yes.
get points, and as those points accumulate, they get prizes and presents and things. And so, you know, having your support team really focused on helping their people and solving their problems for them.
Yeah, I love what we're doing with the support team. It's going to drive the correct behavior, and that's what we do with the compensation plan. We create the comp plan because we want the right behavior
behaviours, yeah.
pulled from that. Okay, let's go into point number 7, which is where should our focus be? Should our focus be on the product, making sales, or should it be on always recruiting, keep building this team?
Well, yeah, look, so for me, it's all about the product. The compensation plan drives the behavior because the compensation plan says you must recruit people and you must build your business and you must train them. But at the end of the day, no sales of product, no business.
Yeah.
So for me, it's all about the product. And so the focus should absolutely be on the product. We should be espousing the power of the product and what it does, and that should be our key focus.
Yeah.
Now, it is true that if you double your team size, you double your turnover.
Yeah.
So you can't take your eye off that ball. But the issue is you can double your team size. If they don't sell the product, you get no increase at all. So step number 1, make sure everybody's locked into the product and that you're focused on the product and the product is epic. And then you can double your team size. So yeah, the focus being on the product. We see a lot of our clients just focus on recruiting. And it's recruit, recruit, recruit. And what they'll end up is 100,000 people, of which 1,000 are doing anything. And so even though they've built this massive team, and they get a massive bump from each time they recruit somebody, the longevity of that is nowhere.
Yeah.
Because they're not focused on the product.
Right. They don't understand the product. They can't go sell the product. And then we get that bell curve.
Yeah.
Because we've just got hundreds of thousands of people
So
in the
we don't
network.
wanna ring the bell.
We don't want to ring the bell. Please. We want to see that beautiful S curve growing.
Yes, exactly.
Okay, then let's go into point number 9 is, and this is a big point, we've got 12 minutes left, is starting with the right system. Businesses fail because they take on a system purely based on price and what they think the system can do, but not actually understanding the capabilities and the power of a system.
Yeah, we've seen companies tank. Well, 2 reasons they tank. Number 1 is when the business takes off and you suddenly get this exponential curve, the system can't cope. And you can't change it at that time. You're under massive pressure. You're getting thousands of orders in every day, and you just can't deal with the growth, and then the business tanks.
It's like turning the tap off.
Well, the orders can't be placed.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
people try and place orders, and the system's not taking the orders, and the money's not coming in, and they get frustrated, and then their faith disappears. And when they've got no faith, they leave.
Yeah.
So remember, these guys are army of volunteers. You've got no leverage over them. If everything is not working perfectly, they're gone.
Yeah.
So what happens is companies come to the party. They think, okay, let's get a system. They then go and look for the cheapest system they have. You know, it reminds me of a story. I went in. I bought a motorbike many years ago. I went to the guy, and I said to him, "I'm looking for a cheap helmet." And he said to me, "Why? Do you have a cheap head?"
Wow.
And I suddenly thought, you know, I'm driving this machine at incredible speeds, and I'm wanting to protect myself with the cheapest piece of equipment on the floor. So he ended up selling me a very expensive helmet.
He's a great salesman, by the way.
But was he right?
Of course he's right.
Now, the same thing with the system. Putting your entire business runs on the system, everything. Yeah. This is the core of everything you're doing. Now, you put it onto a cheap system, you're setting yourself up for failure.
Yeah.
You need an enterprise level system, something that can deal with mega big turnover, because if your business fails, absolutely any system is good enough. But if your business succeeds, you had better be on a proper system. So when you're starting out, that should not be a place where you're saving money. That should be a place where you're putting every cent that you can into that, because you can't migrate. We've done it for clients. They've got onto small systems. They've wanted to move onto a bigger system. It's like changing a fire hydrant without turning off the mains. You know, everything gets wet. It's a complete mess. and you do everything in your power to prevent it from being a mess, but it's messy. So yeah, I would say choosing the right system, big part of why companies fail, they choose the wrong systems.
Okay. Let's go into the last point of why.
Are we on 10 already?
I know, crazy.
Time flies when you're having fun.
I know. Legal compliance. Now, within this space, you know, we've actually done a talk on pyramid schemes versus of multi-level marketing businesses, and what makes a legal business versus that of an illegal one. Okay, what guidance or what issues, what failures do people experience in this specific point?
Well, look, the thing is, when you get started, you don't actually do what is necessary to find what makes a business legal. So you need to understand what makes these businesses legal and what keeps them above board. Mm-hmm. And understand that if you're doing something small illegal, and you're small, you fly under the radar, you get away with it.
Right, yeah.
But as soon as you get traction, what is going to happen is people from other companies are going to start joining your company. Mm-hmm. They're going to see your amazing offering. They're going to see your incredible business. Now, the leadership in the other company is not going to be happy about that. They're losing their people to you. And unfortunately, what happens is once one person goes, they tend to take a whole other network with them, which impacts the income of this leadership. So they then look at your business and they look to see if you're doing anything illegal. And if they see anything, they're off to the authorities and they're going to report you. And suddenly the authorities are going to get reports from a whole lot of the leadership of other companies saying you're doing something illegal. Now, what normally happens is that the authorities then come and investigate you. And that can have devastating effects to your business. Even if you didn't think you were doing something illegal, if they deem you to be doing something illegal, suddenly you're in court. Suddenly you're fighting a battle, and again, you've taken your whole focus off of the business, and your focus is now on trying to prevent yourself from being scuttled, from being declared an illegal pyramid.
Right.
And obviously with enormous fines that come with that, and possibly even jail time. So one of the big things is that out the blocks, make sure that you are above board, legal, legitimate, get advice from a professional, find out what makes his business legal, keep it above board. Because if you fail, again, doesn't matter. You can be doing something illegal, fine. It's when you succeed that you will be investigated, guaranteed. And if you're doing something untoward, or illegal, or unethical, or immoral, you'll be gone. So it's one of the big reasons why companies fail.
Sure, yeah. The governing bodies within the different regions, I mean, specifically in South Africa, we've got the DSA, SA in the UK.
Well, they're global.
So the DSA is global,
yeah.
But they've got regional offices, and they're the governing bodies of the direct selling association.
Yeah.
Do you as a startup business need to go and approach them directly in the beginning, the startup phase of your business, and say, I'm starting this business, please come in and do an audit of my operation to make sure that I'm doing everything above board?
I would recommend it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
And I would recommend becoming a member of the DSA for two reasons. Number one is that if they give you their stamp of approval, the chances are that you're above board, because they do investigate you, they check out what you're doing, and they know what's legal and what isn't. And they won't sign you up if you're doing something legitimate. The second thing, the DSA actually offers you protection. If somebody comes after you that is an industry killer, the DSA will step in and actually fight the case for you. So, for example, in South Africa, we had a situation where the government decided that all MLM companies need to do PAYE, pay as you earn, and they need to deduct PAYE and pay it over. Well, that would have killed the industry. Yeah. And so the DSA took the government to court and won the case. And of course, that saved the whole industry in South Africa. Yeah. So, becoming a member of the DSA keeps you legal, keeps you honest, makes sure that you've got that stamp of approval. If you do get invested, you can say, look, I'm a DSA member, and they've already investigated us. It gives you a lot of credibility.
Wow, okay. Yeah. All right, cool. So that's great guidance there. So we've addressed our 10 reasons why most MLM companies fail. We've got I'm just looking up on the screen at the moment, Renee has asked, should an MLM contract manufacturer for an old client do the same product as in your business?
So he's saying, should an MLM contract manufacturer? So he's manufacturing a product for somebody else, and
Yeah.
he wants to now create his own multi-level marketing business and
Based on
use
that
the same product. Well, that's problematic because there's obviously a conflict of interest. There's something ethical going on there.
Right.
If you're supplying this product to somebody, you now take that same product and go into competition with him. I mean, I would say there's an ethical issue there.
Yeah.
And so I would not do that.
Yeah.
But having said that, if you're a contract manufacturer, and I know this from my association for many years with contract packers, there are 1,000 other products that you could put together that you could make awesome that are not in competition to that
Right.
person.
Yeah.
And you could go and start your own MLM business under a different brand with a totally different product.
Yeah.
So so again, that is an answer that I don't know the specifics of that, but I'd be very careful not to try and scuttle somebody's boat. If they're buying from you and they're in the space, going and getting into competition with
Yeah.
them is maybe not a cool
Sure.
thing to do.
Yeah, agreed. Richard, you are an absolute wealth of knowledge. I love sitting with you.
Cheers.
Cheers.
It's amazing. You put a bit of whiskey in this, and time just flies.
And it also just comes out. Thank you for your time. I appreciate this week, and I appreciate all the other weeks that we've been sitting here together.
Absolute pleasure.
I'm learning a lot. The people listening and watching are learning a heck of a lot. And each week we are creating this valuable content within the multi-level marketing space for the business owner. Next week we've got great topics in the weeks to follow. So each week we've got amazing topics within the MLM space, and we want you to please dedicate just this portion of your week to understanding more about this this incredible multi-level marketing industry, just understanding and learning a little bit more that's going to help guide your business to become a successful entity. Thank you so much.
Hit that bell to remind the guys.
We've got our, thank you for reminding me. So we've got our social channels, we've got our Facebook page, so please go, and if you haven't yet already, like and follow our page. All of this content is displayed there once we've recorded. We've got our LinkedIn page, NetReady MLM. We've also got our Spotify page with all of our podcasting that happens there. So if you're sitting in your car and you just want to listen to all of this content, that's a great way to do it. As you get into your car, I love doing this. I actually get into the car and I set the podcast I want to listen to, and throughout my 45 minutes in traffic, where I'm normally raging, now I'm just enjoying it.
Yeah.
So enjoy those podcasts. We've also got our YouTube channel, NetReady. Please subscribe to the channel. Hit that button for the bell for notifications each time new content is updated. Guys,
Now we need 1,000 people there so we can start live streaming.
we do, and we're going to get there.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for your time. We'll see you next week.